Hello, guys, and welcome back. Once again, this is Glenn, and in today's video, I'll be talking about Nietzsche's concept or idea, the Overman, or the Übermensch, or popularly translated as the Superman or the superior man. So, what is this concept all about? Nietzsche is one of those thinkers who are difficult to interpret because, as I've mentioned in my previous videos, he wrote in aphorism in a very poetic style. So there's no choice but to interpret Nietzsche. In fact, I believe that what Nietzsche wants is for his works or his thoughts to be interpreted and reinterpreted all over again or multiple times and infinitely. So I'll try my best to give my interpretation on Nietzsche's concept, the Overman or beyond man. So what is this Superman? For Nietzsche, the Superman is the epitome of the will to power, the embodiment of the will to power made flesh. So this man exudes, exemplifies, and lives the will to power. So if the will to power is the basic instinct, desire for power, the wanting for power, the desire and the natural inclination to overcome oneself, to change for the better, to excel, to become superior and be on top of the world, then the Superman must be an excellent or a great man. In fact, for Nietzsche, the Superman is a goal. He is a project. He is the objective of existence. So Nietzsche wanted everyone to be Superman, but not all can be Superman, because to be Superman, one has to will it. One has to create oneself. One has to choose and be committed to become a Superman. So we all have the potential of becoming an Übermensch, or the superior man or the Overman, but not all will definitely choose. In fact, many commentators and interpreters would say that the Overman is the ideal man for Nietzsche. And the Overman, since he is the manifestation of the will to power, he is beyond man. In fact, in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche said that the ordinary man is in the state in between the monkey and the Übermensch. So the Übermensch is the actualization of man, the summit, the apex, the ideal nature or essence of how it is to be truly human. And what are the qualities of the Overman? Of course, the Overman is a man who loves strength and power and abhors or evades anything that makes the human species weak. So he loves excellence and he never settles for less and does not desire mediocrity. And of course, he is confident and proud, but not necessarily arrogant. He is ambitious, patient, extremely hardworking, committed and dedicated to his goal and purpose. He does not give up. He endures things. He's very much resilient, always striving for the best and for more. So the Superman is not a static state, but rather I would say this is very dynamic, because the Superman always keeps on pushing oneself up and never give up. So it's not an end in itself, but only a means towards higher goals, towards infinite improvement, infinite strength, and infinite power. And most interpretations would say that the Superman is the creator of values, the creator of truth, the creator of his own happiness. He is independent, pioneering or a pioneer. He is not necessarily cruel, as most interpreters would say. So in my interpretation, the Superman is not really tyrannical or despotic, because in many interpretation, the Superman can be kind and generous, not out of weakness, but out of the overflowing power or energy or force. So being kind and generous is also a quality or a virtue of the Superman, but not out of weakness, not out of pity, but out of the excess, the overflowing excess of the will to power. So this Superman embraces pain and suffering and the imperfections of life. In fact, the Superman is the one who can say yes to life, who can affirm life despite its imperfection and all the evil things that transpire around him. So he does not hate life, but loves it. And of course, he's a kind of person who overcomes challenges and respond to the challenge, not run away from them. So he is courageous. He takes risk. He is adventurous. He lives in a life of danger and risk, not afraid to take risk. So he takes the first step, the first move, and he does not run away with problems, but he is responsible and accountable of his own problems. And he's not afraid to reinterpret the world. He's not afraid to share his thoughts and opinions and change them for the better. And he does not allow others to dictate his life or to define himself. The Superman is a self creator. He determines his life and his world and his truth, not truly dependent on others. So he may listen to others, he may be open to criticism, but at the end of the day, he chooses and decides on what he thinks is best for himself. So the Superman loves the natural instincts, and the Superman is creative because he uses this natural inclination or concupiscences or desires and motivations of man, the will to power in its fullness to creative use. So the Superman is very productive. He's not lazy. So he knows how to sublimate this energy and use them for the good of oneself and for the good of the world. So the Superman is not a conqueror or a destroyer of the world. So my picture is he's like a king or a Caesar, but with the soul of Christ. And I think many interpreters also would concur with that interpretation. And of course, the creator of meaning. So the Superman will never get bored. He might experience a kind of boredom because it's natural, but he naturally overcomes it. He creates his own meaning. So there is no minute or second in his life that he feels bored and unhappy, because happiness for him is not something that you look for and search out there. It is something that one creates. So life will always be meaningful for the Superman. The Superman flies away, or not flies away, but rather does not fall into nihilism or meaninglessness. So he does not get depressed. He has the power to transcend depression. So where did the idea of the Superman come from? In my interpretation, since Nietzsche is a lover of anything Greek, Greek language, Greek literature, and Greek philosophy, except Socrates and Plato, so he got the idea of the Superman, the ideal man, from the Greek gods and the Greek heroes. So what are the qualities of Greek gods and Greek heroes? So they are very manly. So the Superman is also very manly in his image and characteristics. And of course, this I think is also taken and reinforced from the very life of Nietzsche himself. You know, Nietzsche had suffered so much. So when his father died, and I think brother, he lived in an all-female community that was, I think, suffocating for him. But despite that, he endured that. And Nietzsche also had a lot of illnesses. Based on our readings, he had a sexual transmitted disease, and this affected his stomach, his health, and his brain. And he endured that, so meaning he did not give up. Nietzsche did not commit suicide, but rather move on. In fact, in many of our readings, we also mentioned that Nietzsche had a sad love life. But again, despite that, Nietzsche overcome all this hardship. And I consider him to be the example of his very own concept himself, the Superman. And who are the Supermen? Some would say that Nietzsche had examples like Napoleon, Caesar, Richard Wagner at first, and of course Jesus Christ is, I consider him to be an example of Übermensch, though Nietzsche did not really want the Christian values that promote weakness, but Christ is a perfect example of a Superman, because Christ himself was a man of greatness, a man of excellence, a man of power, and a man who defined himself, who defied the challenges of life, who even embraced death. and overcome that. So these are the sources of Nietzsche's idea of Superman. So the challenge is Nietzsche wanted everyone to decide to choose to become Superman. And that cannot be achieved without an effort, without the commitment, and without the responsibility of becoming Superman. So I hope you learned something from today's video. Again, I would like to strongly encourage everyone to give your comments and suggestions and feedback to help me improve my future videos and episodes. And of course, for me to learn from you and for us to share ideas together. So once again, thank you for watching and listening. Please click like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel.